Welcome to our first podcast of Cocktails and Kids. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Nicole.
And we are here, and we're glad you're here. And we just want to talk a little bit about kids and cocktails. Oh, I need my margarita.
While we have a very delicious margarita, if you would like the recipe, it is 2 parts tequila, 1 part triple sec, 1 part fresh squeezed lime juice with the help of my toddler, and a little squeeze of agave, shaken by me, myself, and I.
Beautiful, and I'm enjoying it as well. So we thought we'd just introduce ourselves for our first episode.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about why we are starting this podcast.
I love that. Nicole, why are we starting this podcast?
We are starting this podcast because, as you will hear more about us, I am a speech-language pathologist, and Rebecca is an occupational therapist, and we work in pediatrics, and we find that while there are a lot of resources out there for parents, we don't feel like a lot of them are the most approachable. And we come from a background of experience and a little bit of momming over here, and we feel like we have some things to share, and we can have some fun along the way.
I think a really important thing that I've liked throughout this experience is the thought that we're just going to be talking to each other at happy hour.
Yes.
Which is what we do already.
Yes.
And we're going to share it with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we get to escape on probably a school night and have a drink, right?
Love
it's
it.
Escaping for me, maybe not so much for you.
I mean, it's what I do on a daily basis, but with a friend. So
But we're adults now, and we try and limit our alcohol consumption. So this is a reason to have a cocktail. This podcast, we started the podcast so that we can have a cocktail, is essentially what's happening here.
Absolutely. I guess just to start and introduce ourselves, we became friends through our mutual job. We are pediatric therapists, and I guess I'll go first with a little bit about myself. So I have worked in pediatrics since high school, but professionally, I started work at our clinic, which sees children in an outpatient pediatric setting, and started off going to a lot of schools, which was a very good experience, kind of seeing therapy in the school system and seeing those school-aged kids. Kind of shifted towards an earlier intervention population at the clinic. And then I've gotten really into working for our program for children with autism. So I've shifted from one thing to the other. I feel like I've seen a lot of different children with a lot of different presentations. And my passion, though, lies within autism, and I'm excited to share a lot of that. And then additionally, we both share a love of feeding. So I'll use that to segue into Nicole's professional.
First, we should mention that Rebecca does have a little bit of the nerd alert, and she loves the research, which I love.
I do.
She shares it with me. She reads something, tells me about it, because I love research, but I'm not always like seeking it out. I'm a hands-on learner, as a lot of us are, and also I'm a mom of 2 young children, and finding the time to read that stuff is not always happening for me.
I do love the research. On our shared calendar up there, I created this thing that we do called coffee shop learning, where we go to a coffee shop.
Oh,
where we go
that is a big nerd alert.
We go to a coffee shop and we learn things.
And
last time we went to coffee shop learning, I did a lot of reading on attachment-based therapy.
Oh, so you guys are reading separate topics?
Separate topics,
okay,
yeah.
Okay,
so we're both learning things. So
I thought it was like book club.
No, although we're in that too.
We are.
We are in that too. But no, it was more like, let's pick something we want to learn about and learn on a weeknight. So yes, I do have that.
I love
that passion as well. I guess too, I'm doing a lecture soon, so I do love to do presentations and lectures, and I am speaking at some of our local graduate programs soon.
Oh, fun.
In February. So shout out for that. It's fun to be a guest lecturer, and it's fun to share knowledge, practical knowledge, with grad students.
They're so young and impressionable.
And definitely like wanting to learn.
Yes.
Real life, real topics that they'll use.
Yes.
Not just textbook.
Yes.
So hey, grad students, shout out, listen to us too.
Yeah, come in, come listen. We have some clinical knowledge to share with you, some clinical experiences, some real life stuff, and we want you to be able to apply it at home and in the clinic.
Yes, absolutely. I'll talk a little bit about what I like to do.
Yes, talk
And then
about
I'll
what you like
shift
to
to
do.
you. I really love to camp. I love to travel. And I think I don't really have a hobby. I know you said you don't really have a hobby either, but I don't really have a hobby as much as I love flowers in all forms. There's like some dried flowers back here. I have some pressed flowers over there. Love fresh flowers.
I think flower
All four.
appreciation can be a hobby.
Okay.
I mean, like people like gardening, right?
Yes.
I mean, plants grow in a garden.
Correct.
You just don't grow them?
I just don't grow them.
Maybe that's your next step.
But I'm learning not to kill them.
Oh.
Which is great.
That is a huge step.
I definitely have pressed them before. I've been successful, but it's a process.
Is it?
Yeah. There's lots of things to keep color and a lot of things to that affect like the thickness of the flower you're using. I won't bore you, but there is a lot interesting
I
about
have no idea.
floral hobbies. But that's the one I have. Besides traveling, everybody travels. I feel it's a silly.
Not right now.
Well, that's true. Here we are.
COVID world.
2021.
No, it's 2022 now.
2022.
And January's almost over. I guess I should go into a little bit about myself and my career. I have been a speech language pathologist for almost 9 years. You too? Almost 9 years.
I'm 8 years this year.
We were talking about this the other day. We're the olds at work now, and we just realized that. And that's just a weird concept. It's hard to wrap your brain around seeing all these young, spry little therapists coming in, and they have tons of ideas, and they're chasing after the kids, and we're kind of curmudgeons sometimes.
I feel like we do bring a nice addition
Yes.
to that younger population of it, experience and know-how and dare I say wisdom.
Oh, that's us now.
But I do find myself being like, I'm still fun.
Still fun,
Still
guys.
fun.
Still fun. Me pumping in the corner, I'm still fun.
Still fun. Way fun.
I will come to happy hour. I will be there. So 9 years, I started my career in Houston working in a few different private practices, outpatient private practices, one of which specialized in DIR floor time therapy, which we share passion for. And we'll go into that as a topic one day. It's pretty cool stuff. And when you learn about it, it's actually really intuitive once you learn more about it. But anyways, so I worked there. And then I also worked at a really cool school in Houston. Can I name the school?
I think so.
I
You don't
think
work
so
there
too,
anymore.
right?
Yeah.
I don't work there anymore. It's called the Parish School. It's amazing. And it is a school for children with language delays and learning disorders. And in the preschool classrooms, they have the speech language pathologist as the lead teacher. So I was the lead teacher to a preschool class, and that was an incredible experience. And I learned so much about how to manage a group and various things. And then I made my way over to New Orleans in 2018. My husband is from here, and I've been working with Rebecca ever since.
It's hard to imagine. I remember when you started.
Yeah?
I do, for sure. You were really cool, and you had a lot of rings. I remember that. And I was observing your jewelry, and I was like, dang, I don't know if we were like cool enough for Nicole here, but anyway, you came. And
Here I am,
you are.
and now I have 2 kids. And being a therapist has been such a blessing and a curse as a parent. There's such a thing as having too much knowledge, but at the same time, it really truly is a blessing to know what we know as you're raising your children. But a little bit about what I'm interested in therapeutically. I do love working with children with autism, but more recently have become really involved in working with children with feeding disorders, specifically oral motor deficits and tethered oral tissues. Tethered oral tissues include tongue ties, lip ties, cheek ties, which are kind of a hot topic in our field right now.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, yeah. Very controversial, but we love talking about them and kind of how things come full circle for a patient therapeutically. And I run a little group therapy program at our clinic that I love. I think the ages I kind of focus on are the early childhood ages, kind of a little before 1 to like 4 years old. I do see a couple older clients. But yeah, that's kind of did I miss anything there?
I don't think so. I think what's really cool about us as friends and us as professionals is like there's so much room for collaboration.
Yes.
We're also hoping that
Yes.
comes across in this podcast.
Yes.
Like, hey, speechies, be friends with your OTs.
Yes,
And vice versa.
That is the number one thing I always tell my students or other students that are observing, whoever you are. So I'm a speech therapist. My OT and my PT are my left and right hands. I cannot do my job without them. And I do not expect myself to do my job without them. So you're constantly consulting. And usually these kids that we're seeing, there's something more going on, and we need to address the whole body, the whole ecosystem to help them succeed and make progress.
I think it's really cool too is I get to learn about other professions.
Yes.
And then even implement stuff. I'm finding myself implementing things in practice, like not necessarily, as I guess professional as somebody else would be, but just trying to implement things I've seen from speech therapists and from PTs. And really, I think that makes a big difference when knowing how to do that functionally. I've found it to be a great benefit to my practice, but
it truly is.
Yeah.
It is. And here we are,
ready to share that knowledge.
Yeah, we're here ready to share, hoping that we can maybe instill some knowledge into those of you out there.
I think we should start with our whoa thought and our wow. Maybe we should explain it first.
Yeah. Anyways, whoa thought. So I like to use this term whoa thought. It's kind of like when something happens or somebody says something and you go, whoa, that kind of raised a little bit of a red flag. And we use it especially in social settings with kids when we're working on their social language skills. So they say something that's kind of inappropriate, instead of saying like that's wrong or that's inappropriate, you say like, whoa, that gave me a whoa thought.
Something unexpected.
Yeah, it's very unexpected is what it is. It's from social thinking. I couldn't think of the term earlier.
Love it.
It is from social thinking, which we both have a little bit of experience dabbling in, but not the specific trainings. But anyways, so we want to talk about our whoa thoughts and then our wow thoughts. So kind of a different term for your peak and pit of the day.
Right. We were trying to come up with like a term for that to be able to include it in every podcast episode that we did, like our whoa and our wow.
Yes.
So yeah, whoa and wow.
Yeah.
I like that. The alliteration works for us.
It does. We love alliteration. Tell me about your whoa thought of the day. Or actually, it's not of the day that we're doing, because, we're going to be recording this weekly, hopefully. So what's your whoa thought of the last week?
So it has been, I'm about to sound really, really petty to our northern friends, if we have any northern friends, but it's been very cold recently.
Been quite chilly.
And rainy. And like,
this is what people don't understand. They're like, oh, it's 35 degrees in New Orleans. That's not that cold. But what you don't understand, it is wet.
The humidity.
And you feel it.
It sinks into your bones.
It does.
You really feel it. So we love to camp. I love to camp. My boyfriend has an outfitted truck that we sleep in. So we sleep in a truck outside, which is fine most of the time. Except when it's like in the 20s and humid and rainy and cold. And anyway, we had a camping trip planned for this past weekend. We did not go to that camping trip.
Probably wise.
Probably wise. Part of me was like, I'm still fun. I'm still cool. I can still sleep in 20-degree weather when it's freezing.
You cannot.
I did not.
You know about how I recently tried, and it did not go well, sleeping in a tent with my 2 children, and it was 35 degrees that night.
It's just cold.
Yeah, it was not great.
It's just cold. And we have the gear for it and everything, but it still doesn't mean that it catches,
fun?
It doesn't catch the humidity. Like, the gear can catch dry cold. I feel like it's very different when you wake up with literal condensation on your
Yes, and then you're going to wake up with a runny nose, and then you have to COVID test yourself.
Very true. So it's probably better that I didn't do that. But that was my whoa, was that I was looking forward to this camping trip, really needed it, really needed some R&R. Did not go camping.
A little stressful.
A little stressful. COVID's a little stressful. The world is a little stressful.
2022 is not off to a great start.
No, I can't even believe it's 2022. But my wow was that the whole reason we even were going to have a camping trip is that we were going to this comedy show in Birmingham.
Oh, did you still go?
We still went.
Awesome.
And so we just did a hotel that night. So it was a different kind of weekend, but it was still great. And comedy shows are fun.
I've never been to one.
I know that sounds like, I don't know, repetitive.
Did you drink while you were there?
I mean, no. A drink or Glenn, we had a drink before, maybe a drink after. I feel
I
like,
guess it's like stadium prices, right?
yeah, and we're also getting a little old to wait in lines.
Oh, there's that.
Big lines, not my favorite. So anyway, the comedy show was my wow because A, how does somebody talk continuously, like funny things coming out of their mouth for 2 hours? I have no idea. I mean, we're sitting here babbling, whatever we're babbling, but like, how does somebody stay interesting
2 hours?
for 2 hours? And like, I laughed, yeah, for a majority of the time.
Oh,
so
that's so many endorphins being released into your brain.
it felt very good. So that was my wow. Was that comedy show was great. Good. Highly recommend. You should try it.
Maybe next date night.
Maybe next date night. What was your woe and your wow?
So my woe, I kind of have two woes, not to be a Debbie Downer. But the first was I went to Rouse's today to get limes for said margarita. And my husband was supposed to go last night, but he forgot. So I had to go after work.
We forgive him.
We forgive him. But I was like, oh, they have a stack of king cakes over there. I haven't bought one for the house yet. I've like had some at work here and there, but I haven't brought one home. And my son has just kind of discovered his love for king cake and the concept. And he's about to like really experience Mardi Gras. And he's going to lose his mind because he was obsessed with Christmas lights. So I can't even imagine what he's going to do for Mardi Gras. So I was like, I'll get a king cake and bring it home. Well, there was no cream cheese. There were no cream cheese king cakes. And I'm not about to eat a plain king cake.
It's the best flavor.
I'm not going to eat strawberry. I'm not going to eat blueberry, lemon, maybe Bavarian cream, but they didn't even have that. And y'all, don't sleep on Rouse's king cake. It's pretty good.
It's, as far as grocery store king cakes go,
it's probably the best.
It's definitely up there.
It is.
I've heard good things about Robert's, if you tried theirs, but
yes, theirs is good. I've had it.
People in New Orleans are really snooty about our king cake favorites.
Rouse's is our grocery store, in case you don't know, in case you haven't gathered such information.
Everybody has very strong opinions on where the best king cake is from.
Yes.
So it is devastating when you go and they don't have your favorite flavor.
I was going to get one. I was going to give my kids a sweet little treat, hop my oldest up on sugar before I came over to do this. But they didn't have it, so I was kind of bummed. My other woe is my oldest. His name is Sonny, and he is 2.5. He has been talking a lot about family and friends and wanting to name his friends and name his family. And when we go see a friend, he's like, that's not your friend, Mama. That's my friend. Your friend is whoever the mom is, which is cute that he's like gathering these concepts and starting to understand and like categorize people in some ways. But I was putting him to bed the other night, which when my husband is home, he often puts him to bed, and I put the youngest to bed. And he said, Mama, Daddy is my friend. And I was like, yeah, Daddy is your friend. I said, who else is your friend? And he said, you're my family. And I was like, but am I your friend too? And he said, no, you're my family. Daddy is my friend and my family.
Oh, rude. Moms get such a...
It's really rude because I birthed him out of my vagina and I fed him from my body for 17 months.
Listen, I don't really think they understand that appreciation thing quite yet.
They don't, but it's rude.
It's definitely rude. I'm really sorry about that.
It is
You're
what
so
it is.
appreciated. I want you to write down that story to tell him later.
I will. I do want to like make a little notebook and write down his little sayings from time to time.
You should for sure.
My wow moment. What did I say my wow moment of the day was? Oh, so I never really stop at the grocery on my way home very often because usually I'm rushing home to nurse my youngest, Bowie. He's 10 months. And my husband loves to bring the kids to the grocery store, and I'm all like, you go do that, and I have some time at home to clean. But I stopped at the Rouse's on the way home today, and I loved it. I was just quick in and out. Yeah. I got some bread, some oat milk, because I'm a millennial, and some limes for margaritas. I got the essentials. And I forgot about how diverse that Rouse's is. You go in and you just see everybody from New Orleans, like every walk of life in there. I love it. There was some homeless people in there, just like everybody. And I enjoyed that. I kind of looked around for a moment like, oh, this is the city that I live in.
People watching.
It is people watching, and we've missed out on that for such a long time recently.
You're so right, because you probably haven't been in the grocery store a lot. With the kids during COVID.
So we actually bring them a lot because Sunny's a good mask wearer, and we think that going to the grocery store is an important skill as a kid. Learning how to do that and learning how to run errands and not have to look at a device.
Later topic.
But yeah, I guess I just like haven't been at rush hour after work in a hot minute.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. And I'm not like worrying about keeping my humans with me. Like it was just me.
Right. You just got to be.
Yeah.
You got to be.
I got to be. I enjoyed it. So
great.
That was my
What a great wow. We're going to continue with our woes and our wows just to make us relatable.
For sure.
So I think today, as our first podcast topic, we were trying to think of something that would introduce us as people, but then would also provide like a basis for your understanding from where we're coming from. And I think, introducing the field we're from would be really great. So introducing speech therapy is going to be our topic today. And just, Nicole, like tell us about speech and tell us why our listeners would benefit from knowing about speech for their kids, and why it's such a great thing in general.
It might be the field that you hear about the most, or the service you hear about the most, because there are plenty of kids that that are in speech. Maybe they can't say their S, or they are stuttering, or maybe they are getting feeding therapy, which is kind of new-ish in our field. But yeah, talking about pediatric speech therapy, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is, so we are called speech language pathologists, or you can call us speech therapists. We're not really offended either way. But to talk about speech versus language. Is that too nerdy of me to go there?
No, I would love if you went there, because I actually didn't know that until I started working with speech therapists. I think it's important.
It is, right? So speech is the way that you make your sounds, articulation. So like the sounds that you are making to produce your words and how you say them. So those are your kids that are coming because they have a lisp, because they can't say their R, because they can't say their TH. They're coming for speech, articulation. It falls under that field. And I was just telling Rebecca today, in this field, we don't really use the words pronunciation or enunciation, which is funny because parents will come in and they're like, oh, well, they can't really enunciate that sound. And that's not really the terminology that we use. Not that that's like poo-pooed on if you come in telling your speech therapist that, but just kind of giving you a little insight. And then language is kind of broken down into 3 categories for the most part, but it is the words your child is using and the words that they are understanding, basically broken down, if you want to like put it in simplistic terms. So the 3 categories kind of are receptive language, expressive language, and pragmatic language. Receptive language is what you understand, so like comprehension. Expressive language is the language and vocabulary that you're using and the structure in which you're kind of putting those words together to express your thoughts. And then pragmatic language is the social aspect. So how are you engaging in back and forth conversation? Are you responding to your peers? Are you staying on topic? That kind of thing. And then you asked me a question, right? And then I kind of got off topic. Like, why would people be coming for speech?
Right. Like, I think, what is the biggest positive of speech as far as, like, why would kids come and what is the best thing they can get out of it?
It depends what your concern is for your child or what your child is struggling with. But I kind of want to maybe backtrack a little bit and say that if you have a concern about your child's speech, the way they're talking, about their language, they're not saying enough words for their age, about their stuttering, about their feeding, picky eaters, those are a red flag for us, a big red flag. A lot of times picky eaters, their mouth, their muscles in their mouth, their tongue, their lips, their cheeks, their jaw are not working in the way that they should be. Therefore, your child has reduced their diet down to something that is easier for them to manage. And that's why they're like avoiding certain textures, certain food groups. It's not just toddler pickiness. Some of it may be their lack of exposure. But if you have concerns about these things, bring them up to your provider. And if your provider is not hearing you or saying, let's wait and listen, maybe you do for a month or so, but you're still having that concern, trust your instincts. Trust your mama gut. If you're a mama out there, trust your mama gut. Come in, get evaluated. What does it hurt? If you're willing to pay the copay or whatever it is, come in and get your child evaluated.
I think that's the biggest take home for me too, is like,
Yes.
it literally hurts nothing.
It doesn't.
Worst case scenario, you go to the speech therapist and they say, you know what, here's some recommendations. They don't really need once a week therapy. They're kind of on target where they are.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll check in a couple months. Like, that's literal worst case.
It is.
Why would you not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you come in a couple times, we give you some pointers for at home, and things are moving along right on track. And we love it most of the time when parents are in the session learning from us, because let's be real, 30, 45 minutes once a week is only going to go so far.
Yes.
So a primary part of our job is to educate you, the caregiver, in how to carry this over at home. You're going to be the true therapist. We don't expect you to therapize your child all day long, but we want to teach you some tidbits to use here and there throughout your day, throughout your week, that are going to help your child make progress. And I kind of want to go back to that mom gut. Today, I was telling you I had an eval.
Yes, tell me.
A 9-month-old who came in because the referral was that they weren't transitioning to solids well. And the parent kind of in our eval today kind of told me, like, we did purees. He did fine with purees, but anytime I gave him something solid, like a puff or a teething cracker, we even tried some scrambled eggs, he's gagging. And it made me nervous. I didn't know if he's gagging or if he's choking. And so, I brought this up to my pediatrician, who kind of wanted me to wait and see at the 9-month visit. But I just wasn't feeling right about it. This is the mom saying this. And so I wanted to get a referral in. And she's like, I don't know if I'm just not experienced because this is my first kid or what, but she came in and, you know what, we're going to do a little bit of work for a little bit with some strong parent education. And I think that mom did the right thing. She's listening to her gut. She wasn't feeling safe with what she was doing, and therefore her child wasn't making the progress or moving through the developmental stages in the way that maybe they should be. And they came in, which
Perfect.
I think is great.
That is great. And especially because you can provide the guidance. I think that's a big thing that, some newer parents are looking for. And the parents that I've worked with were really wanting is just guidance. Like, even if it's just validation that what they're doing
it's
is
supervision, right? It's like when you're in school and you're working under a supervisor, you have that cushion of somebody there to help you, guide you in the right direction, help you work through the mistakes. And you're not constantly questioning yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
the validation.
All good things. Validation for sure.
Yes.
I'm wondering, in your experience as a speech therapist, like, tell us about the different ways, like, can speech therapy be in your home? Can it be at a clinic? Like, tell us about the convenience factor, because I feel like as a mom, probably that's a huge thing too.
Yes. So speech therapy can be at your child's school, especially public schools. You might see some speech pathologists that have contracted into some private schools. You can come see us at an outpatient private practice like we're at. You could see them at a hospital, but either inpatient or outpatient, depending on your child's needs and condition. Or there's home health therapy, like we have here in New Orleans, our government subsidized program called Early Steps that services the birth to 3 population. So, there's a variety of places that you could seek out services. So if you feel like maybe this, like, God, I'm concerned about my kid, but I don't know if I should seek out this service because I don't even know how I would fit that into my schedule or how I would get my child there, there's a way.
Always,
and some of these therapists are going into daycares and like I said, schools. So you never know. You never know what that may look like. So trust your gut. Don't do the wait and see too much.
I don't love that advice, but I understand it.
Yeah.
I just don't love it.
Yes.
I'm a very proactive person. That would give me
We
anxiety
also know too much.
Maybe. Maybe just a little bit. I think, as I'm listening to you talking, one thing as an OT who's like familiar with child development, intimately, but not necessarily speech, the disparity between receptive and expressive language, like the disparity between parents coming in and being like, I know he understands what I'm saying, but we're not hearing the words we want. And like that disparity is enough to be concerned about.
For sure.
Like even if it's like maybe the talking will come, but why not go and see?
Early intervention is always key.
It's so good. I also,
You're usually in therapy for a shorter amount of time also
yeah, and I
with
think
early intervention.
you just head off. You just head off so many problems.
Yes.
Early intervention
Yes.
heads off so many snowballing
Yes.
issues sometimes.
And for transparency's sake, my youngest, Bowie, he's 10 months old. He just made 10 months yesterday. He is in physical therapy right now. He wasn't crawling. And I was looking for it because my oldest was a little delayed to crawling. And, but he did eventually crawl at 9 months, which isn't really late, but he was trying to skip it. He was trying to pull up to stand, and I brought him into work. This is my oldest I'm talking about. I brought him into work to have the PT look at him. She said, he looks pretty good. Try X, Y, and Z. And excuse me again, maybe move your coffee table. I put that sucker up in the attic.
Literally my favorite story about you.
I put my
Nicole's
coffee
like,
table.
no walking allowed before we crawl.
I put the coffee table
table's leaving.
in the attic. It has not come down. I saw it up there yesterday when I was looking for our Mardi Gras gear. Still up there. So my youngest would probably be also trying to just pull up to stand. I haven't let him. I keep pushing him down. But I noticed some atypical crawling patterns. And, my husband was like, oh, here we go again, Nicole. Like, you're just going to be, obsessing about the crawling. But I noticed some atypical patterns. So I brought him in. And I told our physical therapist, please try and treat me like I'm not a therapist. And she said, that's going to be hard, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
And she said that she recommended a full eval in therapy. So here we are.
I know. No shame. No shame in that game. No shame in that game.
There's no shame in it. There really shouldn't be shame in your child needing services. It says nothing about who you are as a parent. It says nothing about who your child is. We are here to support you and to support your child. We have resources at our fingertips that you may not have. So if we're saying, hey, try screen time like this instead of like this, we're not judging the screen time that you're providing your child. We're just wanting you to utilize it in a better way.
Absolutely. I mean, so many good nuggets. Look at you. Talking off the fly over here. I love it. I think, as we kind of talk in this podcast, we're open to things you want to hear about.
Yes, absolutely.
As parents that might be listening to this, as people that might be watching, we are totally here for y'all and you. For those not familiar, y'all is our plural form of you in New Orleans, but we're here for you. And so I think, also being able to recognize what parents are looking for is so important. And I know that we come from a place of knowledge and expertise, but also understanding.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That is huge.
I need a refill. Do you?
I would love a refill, yes.
And we kind of want to bring to you, every time we talk about a topic, we want to bring to you a how-to moment. So how to at home moment. How do I promote this skill or facilitate this topic at home? I'm spilling. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
But most of the goods are getting in the cup.
I wonder if the sound is picking up. I love that if it is.
So how do you promote language skills in your child at home? The number one way to do this is books. You know it.
Read it.
Read those books. Start early, y'all. I started reading to my kids as part of their bedtime routine once I transitioned them to their beds in their room.
Mm-hmm.
So
what was that, like year-ish?
3 months.
Oh.
I started reading a book.
Early.
Reading a book? Yeah.
I love that.
Just a short little book.
Yeah.
Like a tiny, like a Sandra Boynton little, like, what is it? Moo, ba, la, la, la. We love that one. Her little books are cute and they're short and simple. I did this thing for a while, kind of sidebar here, but where we would put my babies to sleep in their bed initially. Mm-hmm. And then whenever it was time for their dream feed around the time we were going to sleep, I would nurse them and then move them to the basket in our room so that we had time in our room to kind of get ready for bed without worrying about the baby so much. So yeah, I started doing books as part of bedtime routine at about 3 months old. We do a lot of books in my house, a lot of books, but it's truly the best way. Build it in as early as you can. It's also just great entertainment, and kids learn so much language from their books. And I'll kind of bring it to my mom moment.
Ooh.
From our book over when we're talking about books. So I like to rotate my books and rotate my toys. We joke that speech therapists are often very type A and OTs are very type B. And I tend to be more of a type B.
We like to say Nicole should have been an OT, even though
should've.
she's really good at what she does. But personality-wise, I'm seeing more A come out in you with this podcast experience.
Yeah, right? It's very interesting where my type A comes out because
It
it's
comes
not
out.
at work.
No, it comes out for sure.
Like everybody's desks, the speech therapist desks are very organized, and mine is not. It's like a heap, like all the OTs. But anyways, I like to rotate my kids' books based off, like I have a section of books that are like holiday seasonal books. So I just pulled out our Valentine's and Mardi Gras books. And we read Who Got the Baby in the King Cake, which is by Jeanette Downey, I think. We'll look it up and we'll tag it for you guys. But Who Got the Baby in the King Cake? It's basically about making a king cake. And for those of you who aren't from here, I guess we'll talk about the baby in the king cake. There's a little tiny plastic baby that goes in the king cake. And tradition is that when you bring king cake to work or to a party, whoever gets the king cake in their slice of cake has to buy the next king cake. And so we have like king cake season at our work. I mean, almost every company does, right? Every office in the
I'm
city.
bringing it on Thursday.
Are you?
I am. I'm so excited about it.
Did you get the baby?
I got the baby last week, and I owned up to it.
Yeah, people try and hide it, and they'll like move the baby because they don't want to go get a cake.
It's a hard and fast
There's also
rule.
a lot of pressure about where you're getting your cake from, and we try and make it somewhere new, like new for that season. Anyways, so I got this book for my son. My husband, I pulled it out. My husband read it for bedtime the other night, one time. And I read it to him the next morning. It's a super simple book that kind of breaks down making the king cake. And he asked me to read it again, and I said, no, I have to go do this thing over here, but you read it, and I'll be right back. Well, then I look, and he's reciting it. He has it almost memorized already, which I was like kind of impressed by. And then it was time for me to like fold laundry or something. And he said, I want to play with sand, kinetic sand. And so I just put out the kinetic sand and like the Play-Doh cookie cutters with it. And he was like, Mama, look, I'm making the king cake. I'm rolling out the dough. I'm putting in the filling. And he sequenced the steps from making the king cake into his sand.
Blows my mind. It's still so good. That's so good.
And I was really proud of him. Carryover, generalizing, imagination, language, memory. So many good tidbits there.
All from a book.
All from a book, y'all.
All from a book.
All from a book.
There's so much that could be done for sure. And, from an OT perspective, that play is impressive.
Yes.
Like being able to sequence that himself, but then also imaginative. Whoa.
I was very impressed.
Big things for your 2-year-old.
I was very impressed.
I know.
And to kind of tie it back, like, we're here to like give you guys knowledge, but also to share resources. And as a parent, I'm constantly kind of seeking out the resources that are hot and popular right now because I'm curious what the parents that I'm working with are consuming. So I've taken a lot of the parenting courses, and I took the Big Little Feelings course. I love their account. Do you love their account?
I love their account. I'm not even a parent, and I love their account.
It's so good. It's so good. And like, I love it because then it's not just me telling my husband to do things. When we take a course like that together, he's hearing some of the stuff that we've talked about coming from somebody else, which is validating for me and my ego, but also like he's listening a little more. But anyways, to bring it back to that is they have this thing they call the 10-minute miracle. And it's about spending 10 undivided minutes with your kid, filling their cup. Earlier in the day is always better. Spending that undivided time with them with other children away, no devices around, and filling their cup before you go about your day. And I really get in this habit as a mom. I'm home with my boys 3 days a week, and My youngest still takes a morning nap, and it's a long, glorious nap. And I usually use that time to like catch up on laundry and stuff while my oldest plays. But I have decided to start spending 10 minutes with him, whether it's reading a book, whatever he wants to do to really fill his cup. And then I see him playing more independently later.
That's
And
great.
it's hard. There's the constant to-do list as a parent. There's so much fucking laundry to do. It's like incessant. It's never ending. But when I spend that 10 minutes with him, he's not like pulling at my pants, asking me to do something constantly. He's not asking to watch the TV. He's playing a little bit more independently because he feels like I filled his cup. I
Right.
put time into him.
And that's the long game too. You know, coming
Yes.
from that perspective, the therapy perspective of like, sure, things are going to be hard in the beginning sometimes, establishing a routine like that and putting that time aside for you and him. But the long game is so worth it.
It is. And I don't do it all the time, obviously. Like, there's life. But when I do, I notice a big difference. And the earlier in the day that I do it, the better.
I mean, that is incredible. I think that, you know, when we look at our kids and we try to maintain this whole picture of our kids, we have to remember, like, we need that 10-minute miracle for ourselves really frequently. Of course, why would your two-year-old not need that time to fill his cup?
Absolutely.
Like, it is so natural to need that and so important.
Yeah, somebody taking time to give you attention and engage with you on a level that you are interested in. How does that not feel good?
Right. It feels great. And I love too that, you know, as your speech therapy person is raising your son, like clearly he's an amazing communicator.
Yes.
And we're perpetuating that for life.
Forever and ever and ever.
Forever and ever. We will link the books that Nicole has been talking about as well as some of the things that we've mentioned throughout this podcast so that if you're interested, you can find them there. And yeah, listen to us next week. I think for our podcast, what we're going to do, we introduced Nicole in speech therapy. Next time we'll introduce occupational therapy.
Yes, I think that's going to be a really hot topic because a lot of people don't know what occupational therapy entails.
Listen.
It's confusing.
It is so confusing, and I can't wait to maybe have a larger platform to explain it because it is. It's
ambiguous.
It is, and it's like the best known secret. Like once you figure out about OT, it's like, whoa, you can help with that.
Yes.
And it's so general and so broad, which is why it's hard to understand. But listen, I'll explain it next time.
Yes.
I'm very excited for it. I guess we should have like a sign off or something.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. Thanks for coming with us.